Okay, friends, this one's really special for me because today I get to introduce you to not just an amazing woman, but one of my best friends in the world. We've known each other since grade 1. Yep, we were 6 years old. And through all the twists and turns of life, she's been a lifeline and a soul sister to me. We've called each other all sorts of silly names over the years, including some special barn animal names that you will hear. And now she goes by the beautiful name, Raya. Today we're going to talk all about sass, soul, friendship, poetry, and what it really means to come home to yourself. So settle in and let's dive in. We are rolling! One more time! The best thing about doing a few takes is that we get to do that numerous times.
And laugh every single time.
Oh, baby, I am so happy to be spending my morning with you.
Oh, likewise. I'm so delighted to spend this time with you. And also because we have such a huge time change between us. Every moment I get with you is so precious. So thank you
Oh
for
my
having
gosh.
me in your
Oh, but
new...
you are my first official global friend coming on to Sass and Soul podcast to have important, heart-leveled, deep conversations.
I'm so excited. Thank you for inviting me. Such an honor
Of
to be here.
Of course, of course. I wouldn't want to kick off with any other person. And I would love you just to describe what the beautiful light behind you is. For those that are listening and don't see it, there's a really gorgeous light. Is that the sunset?
No, it's not at all. These are my bedside lamps, and I have a very special light bulb called Wise, and you can program it to be different colors. So I like it on the sunset setting, and I chose sunset because for me it's golden hour. The sunset is about to go happen, and it just felt like the perfect vibe for our little interlude today together.
Oh, because it is set, the sun is setting right now in Los Angeles, because a lot of people don't know that that's where you're coming in from.
That's right. I'm in LA and we're about half an hour away from sunset. It's 6:30 here in the evening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right now you're having a conversation between someone based right now in Perth, Western Australia, currently in Los Angeles, United States, but we grew up and met all way back in Cowtown. That's the affectionate name for our home city of Calgary, when we were just 6 years old.
Yes, so long ago, decades ago.
I know. Where does it go? And Krista, what I'd love to, there's so many things that, like, as your friend, I want to ask you and explore, some of which we got an opportunity to do when I was recently in LA and I got to spend time with you. But I'd love to go back to little girls, little Krista, little Cindy, 6 years old. How would you have described how you felt about yourself and life as a 6-year-old?
Wow, this is something I haven't thought about in a long time. But as you were kind of painting the picture of the age that we met, I was immediately remembering when I saw you on the playing field at recess, and you had your bouncy strawberry blonde hair, and you were just so full of life, and your eyes were like these firecrackers, like you were just full of fun and ready for fun. And I just wanted to know you. So I'm remembering that moment and feeling very excited and in awe, because you weren't like the other girls I had met in my class yet. You were in a different class. And I think at least that's what my memory remembers. And there was just something different about you that I was so curious about. I was really curious about this kind of unbridled enthusiasm that you seemed to have and still do have. And to that day, I mean, to this day, I still remember asking you if you would be my friend. And it has been one of the best decisions I ever made from 6 years old. And that decision of asking you if you wanted to be my friend on that playing field at recess was, just one of the best gifts of my life from then to this day. So that's what I remember, and just feeling so delighted to have such a fun friend and someone who saw the world differently and who wanted to understand the world differently and dream and play in our dreams and imagine what was possible and imagine different realms. And I'm also remembering being at one of your the first birthday party that you had that I went to. I think we were maybe in grade 3, and it was a sleepover, and we were in your basement, which had a tiki bar in it and a microphone where you used to sing frequently with your dad. And that was just so outside of my world. I mean, my house was pretty quiet and serious. And that you had this whole playground in your basement. And again, it was just this like joy, just pure joy is what I remember feeling when we got to hang out together as 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-olds.
Oh, Krista, first of all, I'm going to say it might have been your best decision to ask me to be your friend. It was the best decision I made to say, of course, let's go. Let's go play. Let's go do this thing of cold life.
Yeah, and it started with recess.
Good old recess. Man, I miss recesses. I think that's a thing that even now, like working with women and carving out time for ourselves, like seriously, 15 minutes, we would get out and play soccer. In fact, in wintertime growing up in Canada, do you remember we had 15 minutes to get our entire snowsuits on, get our mittens on, get our get our toques on. They call them beanies here, toques on, and we'd race outside, and we just would like pack so much into like the 10 minutes we had before we had to come back and take it all off again and get back to class, right? Like, just think of the joy that we did in doing so.
Yeah, the taking of a break, but the devotion and the labor that was required in order just to get outside. You know, the managing of the mittens alone. Do you remember having a string that held the mittens together, and it would be threaded through the arms of the coat so we wouldn't lose our mittens?
I completely remember that. It's so funny you say that, like the management and devotion, and there's possibly a reason why you and I are both living in warmer climates.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
You know, one thing that when I think of you, I don't remember that the first time we met. I actually don't. In fact, it's hard for me to remember you not in my life. But I just see you in this fuchsia pink like jumpsuit. I remember a fuchsia pink jumpsuit, these pigtails, and just this desire to go deep. Like when I think of you, one of the first word that comes to my mind is depth and deep. And that means like part of the reason I call you horsey is because when you yawn, like your mouth is like, you're taking in so much air. Like there's a depth of even that, but there's a depth of desire of wanting to understand things. There's this depth of laughter from your belly. Like it's just deep, deep. And even as a kid, like me right now, looking back and seeing you, I just see this deep desire to like suck like the juice or understanding or experience into your bones. That's my memory of you, but you're also still the same.
Yes. I feel that Thank you for that reflection. I do feel that that has been pretty consistent in my life, like a desire to understand the world in a way that matched with my insides. And so connecting with my depth was my way of doing that, and asking questions about how what I felt in my depth was either congruent or incongruent with what I saw in the world outside me. And what I remember a lot from our friendship in the earlier days and also in the teenage years was that you were the friend who I could have those conversations with. I could have those wonderings and musings with. And it was just part of the fabric of our friendship. And yeah, so I do feel that is still very much a part of my essence. And on the conversation of friendship, I was, thinking a lot about you before meeting for this podcast. And in my book, one of the lines about friendship is the hand that shapes the clay of your heart. And for me in my life, you are definitely one of those friends who has shaped the clay of my heart, because you were complicit with your own curiosity and your own wondering and your own hunger and desire to experience the world. And still to this day, that remains true, no matter that we've lived very different lives on different sides of the world. And whenever we see each other, that same consistency of our essence that never changes is still there. And it's just such a gift to be able to enjoy that for so long.
Yeah. I feel really moved hearing that, and I just felt that exact same feeling just sitting across from you in LA post boudoir photo shoot, which I do want to get into later. But being able to, it's wonderful to be able to have ongoing little conversations over the years, whether it's on WhatsApp or anything like that. But to be able to actually sit in your presence and like the three-dimensional Krista, right? And all those expressions, and feel this long-standing woven web of life together. And yeah, it's so precious. And that to me is like, when I think about, family, like my dearest friends are parts of my family. And I wouldn't navigate life without you. Like that's a big part of my, like we talk about, like, my soul is my compass, but a big part of my navigating and I guess stopping along the way and having fireside chats,
Yes.
and meanderings are with my dear friends.
Yeah. It's so precious. It's really so precious to have the connection and then also the consistency of it. Like no matter the life that's lived in between, to me, that's just so precious.
Yeah,
so precious.
it is. And what I also noticed was when we were together, there's one thing about hearing what each other has actually done. I use the word done in quotations here, right? But the different things that we've created, but to see you embody the growth and change, and even things that you've taught or are teaching, or you're just living and breathing it, that was where I really went, wow. Like I'm not just witnessing it, I'm actually watching this woman who has come into such, from my experience, especially tangibly being with you in LA, being so in her body, so in love with her body that she radiates, and this expression that kind of comes out of your pores when you move, especially down that hallway that we'll talk about. Right? Like, you and I have both done a lot of different things in our lives. Neither of us have had like a straight down runway at all, and a lot of it by our choice, and some of it not, but a lot of it being through choice. But to see you embody your sensuality and claim your space. You're radiant. Like, you are absolutely radiant. It's such a joy as your friend to see you and be with that. And it's inspiring.
Oh, thank you so much, Cindy. I receive that, knowing the journey that I've been through to love my sensual expression in the way that I do today. You knew me in the years in my 20s and even in my 30s when that part of me was shut down or inhibited or shy, and just wanting to try all these things to break free from my inhibitions. And I really gave it a lot of care and space and attention and devotion to honor that part of myself and to liberate that part of myself. So it's not, your reflection is not lost on me. Thank you. To be able to see me in that light all these years later.
Yeah.
That means a lot to me.
And Krista, when you look back, like, part of what I'm going to use the word love. Like, I remember a moment when I went to Africa. So I was 18, turned 19. And I remember I got out of the tent early one morning. We were in Botswana, and we were in the salt pans. And I got up and I walked out, and the sun was about to rise. And I'd already been away from home for probably a good 5-6 weeks by that time. So it had a lot of distance in those rich days and experiences in that 6 weeks from having just recently been back at home. And I suddenly, what was washed over me was this feeling that just brought me to tears. And it was, I love myself. And I didn't think I didn't, but it was just something, it just came over me. And it was such a powerful part of my journey. I almost feel like a big part of my shift started then. I still had a long ways to go to honor that, to know what that looked like, and boundaries, and explore that deeper. But that was a really pivotal felt experience for me. Is there one for you that comes to mind, knowing that there's not often just one and that's it, but there's numerous ones?
Yes, the catalyst for me was definitely when I did ayahuasca for the first time in Costa Rica. I was 39 years old, so that was the era where I had the most profound awakening. And I had childhood trauma that came up that let me understand and gave me the clarity for why I was so afraid, not only of intimacy, but I was so afraid of using my voice and honoring what felt right and true in my body. And once I had that clarity, it freed me, because I realized that all of the fear that I had been living in and had been controlling every decision I made in relationship to my body and in relationship especially to my sensual expression was governed by fear. And I saw that I had another choice. And I think for most of my life, I didn't really see how to access that choice. So for me, it was having that awareness that was a domino effect for everything. And then after that moment, it was very much a process of choosing it. And so as part of my own healing journey at that age, I found out about pole dancing classes in New York. I was living in New York at the time, as you know, and a friend of mine had told me about a sensual moving meditation. And I didn't know that it was pole dancing. She just described it as a sensual moving meditation. And I knew that I needed to experience that and commune with my body that way. And it ended up being pole dancing. So it was every moment in those classes that I gave myself full permission to enjoy the pleasure of being in my body and to find out what pleasure meant to me just by being in my body and moving and loving what that movement felt like and getting out of my head around any self-judgments that I had about myself, my body, my expression. And so for me, it was very different from what you described in your experience that washed over you. For me, it was a very active internal choice almost for probably five solid years. And the how can I say this? The beginning of that journey was the most sensitive, raw, beautiful. And then the more and more I just practiced choosing it and getting to know who am I when I have full permission to enjoy pleasure in my body, then it just became part of who I am. And it became part of also knowing who I am by being in the moment. Because if I'm connected to body sensation in the moment, then I'm present. If I'm not, then I'm not really fully present. So it taught me so much about being present, both with my emotional life and my physical life. And movement is a part of that. So yeah, it was many moments that I chose on that path of becoming.
Yeah. And that is, I think, a really profound experience that many, many women have and many humans have of being disconnected from our bodies and not honoring, not even sometimes knowing how to honor them because we don't know what the fear is that's holding us back, right? What is your key sign that you need to attune more or you're not honoring? Like what is a very clear sign for you?
For me, because I'm so body oriented, I know when I'm overriding myself because I'll feel collapsed in my chest. I feel it in my chest, and I also feel clenching in my throat. Those are two visceral signs for me where I know that something is off, and I'm either feeling an emotion that I haven't fully acknowledged and honored, or I'm going in a direction that, for whatever reason that my mind doesn't even understand yet, is not aligned with my full sense of self.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for me, it's definitely the visceral signs that are the quickest for me to recognize. And then also I've noticed on let's say the mental level, if I feel confusion, that's also a sign for me. If I feel confusion or disoriented, I know that something is off and I really need to check in with myself.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love hearing that clarity. I noticed for myself that there's I definitely start to feel heavy, and confusion's a big one for me. because I'll start moving into indecisive mode, and I will, and it almost will look like I'm second guessing, but it's because I'm not plugged back into my soul, into going, hang on a second, hang on. I'm trying to look externally at the world around me to make a decision, and I've now I haven't plugged back in. I'm sourcing everything from external. That's a big one for me.
I love that you touched on that, because on the topic of confusion, I had this whole insight around confusion a couple years ago, or maybe just last year. I was on a retreat, and one of the facilitators, her name is James Olivia, and she is a teacher of relational dynamics, and she gave this definition of confusion that resonated so much with me. She said, I'm paraphrasing it, so it's not going to be exactly this, but confusion is actually a sign that you do know what you know, but that you just don't feel safe in those circumstances to acknowledge it or speak it. And that made so much sense to me, because I know there's so many times in my life where I do know what I know, but I'm afraid. And then that creates this confusion and disorientation and a doubting, like you said, like a doubting or a grasping or reaching for clarity. And that just, it changed the way I looked at the experience of confusion.
Oh, I think that is brilliant. That actually really lands for me. That really, really does. Because I guess the confusion is almost like, confusion has to have two different pieces, right? If there's just one thing, you're clear on that. But confusion has to have like an inward and an outward energy pull.
Yes.
So the outward's like, what's going on here? But it has to be confused with the inner thing. So of course that means that a knowing actually is there.
Yes. It's like the knowing inside is incongruent with what's happening outside. And so because those two things aren't congruent, there's a discord that causes that confusion, because things aren't matching up. And so there's not coherence in the body and in the mind. But it is, it's just wild to know, and so affirming that we actually, even in times when we feel confused, that we know what we know.
Yeah.
And it takes the shame away too for me of, feeling confused in a situation and wishing I could have said or did something otherwise. And when I look at those kinds of situations through this lens, it's just like it removes the shame of experiencing it. Yeah.
Oh, I think people are going to really love hearing that. I think that's going to be an aha for a lot of people as well. And I love, like, that to me just crystallizes something I've felt, but I never had language for either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that is rich.
It's really helpful.
So in talking about, we talked about body, but I'm curious because, as I've shared with you before, like a big part of my work is about helping women find their voice so they can be a voice, because that's been a big part of my journey, very much so also has been about finding my voice. And I would love to ask you, I guess, first of all, I do want to bring this up right now. What did the writing of this absolute beauty, okay, this is Krista Raya book, Life's Poetic Glossary, The Humanity of Everyday Words. What did this stunning book teach you about your own voice?
Oh, this is such a good question. Thank you for this good question.
You're welcome. It just came out of me.
Whoa. What did this book teach me about my voice? Oh. Writing this book was so simple to me. It was really a deliberate meditation every single day for 30 days in a row, bringing what was inside of me into the outside in a very clear lens that helped me to exfoliate any distortion I had about my life experiences that had any negative associations with these words. And what I learned about my voice is that it's very simple. It's actually very simple, and there's depth. And I think that is really truly me. And that was the experience that I had in the process of writing it, was just connecting with simple truths that would remind me of navigating my own life, and also not negating the the distractions that could get in the way of that clear lens, by anchoring it with depth. And so I learned that actually writing this book was very simple in a lot of ways. It's not a book that I had dreamed of writing for many, many years, even though I had the idea probably 7 or 8 years ago. I learned that actually the process of writing is, the process of writing it was so much easier than I could have imagined. I think I judged that finishing a book would be very hard, but it wasn't. And I really learned that if I just put my voice down on paper, it will resonate with the people who it's meant to resonate with. And that simple truth was just so affirming, because I would have never known unless I wrote it and then shared it with people. These are kinds of thoughts that I have all the time on my own, but not culminated them into one book. And so I learned that there's value in that. I learned that there is value in the simplicity of sharing my voice, no matter how many people read it.
And that is a question that I remember asking you in LA, because I've definitely gone through a journey of writing a book. And I asked you this, but I'm going to ask you this again. Just to clarify, when you were writing this in those 30 beautiful days of meditation and just allowing your insides to come outside, did it ever cross your mind about what a reader or a receiver might look and feel? Or was it just really you were within you and your voice came out?
Another great and nuanced question. I did not think about how my reader was going to receive my words as I was writing it. I think that probably would have distracted me. However, I was very clear about the inside feeling or vibration that I was connecting with, and that was connected to how the reader would feel when they're reading it. So not what their experience was going to be necessarily, or what they would think about the writing, but the feeling is what was my guide, and it's what led me to finish the book, was this feeling of just beautiful connection between what's inside of me connecting with others, and so that this beauty that I feel inside could be shared with others and felt by others. And that's what I focused on, as opposed to what they would think about it, or if they had similar experiences. I didn't think about that at all.
I think I love knowing other people's processes, but also just, it's such a wild ride to to take something from within you and honor and trust it, and find your harmony with it, or just allow. I mean, defining the harmony is more like a searching thing, so that's still in my head, but just really trust and allow and move it out. And again, for those of you that are watching this podcast on YouTube, I am going to hold up this book. And at the end, I'll absolutely make sure you find out where you can get your hands and, more importantly, your heart onto this book. So not only, I mean, this is the golden edition that I got a copy of in person when I saw Krista Raya. I love calling you that together. I put those two names together, and I'm about to ask you about the evolution of your name. But if you can see, I'm just going to open up a few pages. So we've got these stunning X-rays of different flowers that are alongside different words that Krista has, I'm curious, we'll ask you in a second, either chosen or they came to her, these specific words, that she has created her own definition of what these words mean to her and how they show up through her. So it is a stunning book, and I remember reading it, and I remember I had a little bit of a deadline to read it because I was one of your early readers. So I remember thinking, sure, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to just read this. But then when I started in it, I'm like, oh, you take one poem in, and that was enough for me in the day because it was rich and deep. But I remember trying to race through them to get it to you in time. And it was like a whole journey in and of itself. Like, it was so powerful. And everyone, it is such, I'm going to cry because I'm so proud of you because it's such an offering from a person's heart. So, but that being said, I just happened to realize that this beautiful bookmark was actually in this page. And I was like, you know what? This is a big part of friendship to me and our friendship. And once I allow my tears to flow and I get my voice back, I just want to read it back to you, your words, right? So this word that in the glossary is the word becoming. And it says, becoming is the pathway toward your insides converging with the outside world. Becoming is defining and refining the altar of self-expression as the anthem for loving oneself plays on. Becoming is feeling limp and impotent, resting and reckoning with all the life lived so far, and daring to ask what's waiting to be birthed into the beyond. And having friends to witness your becoming is one of the greatest gifts any of us could have.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you for reading that, so I could receive it from your voice.
Definitely. I really just want to honor this. I really wanted to ask you about your own becoming through this book. And of course, I want everyone to go and find this book. We'll put links in the show notes. Krista, how does someone who has written this book, delved into her own sensuality, taught sensuality classes, created her own lingerie line called Permission. How did you get there when you started in environmental science? And because, like I said, you and I did not take the normal path. I had this one woman one time asked me if she could sit down with me and ask me how I got into leadership and leadership consulting, and I laughed, and she goes, "What did you study?" And I went, "So are you wanting me to tell you what leadership course did I take?" And I'm like, Like, if you want to hear about kayaking with orca whales as a guide, working in the mountains, working in the film industry, like, if you want to hear about that, I'll tell you. But that's my route. And with you, what I remember, let me just see if I can remember and add on to this. Ready? This is going to be funny. So, okay, environmental studies. And then, but we're talking jobs, Jobs, okay, job. And then from jobs, owning a brownstone and running it as an Airbnb, maybe slightly illegally.
At times, I was renting for short term after the rules had just changed. But it was legal when I started it, and then the rules changed. And
got it. Happened. She's fine. No one has to go after her. Doing masseuses late at night, poker nights, doing some kind of foreclosure real estate, something like that, and being like a fit model for Kmart.
Yes. You remember that one too, yes.
These are just some of the many. So this is what I love, right? Because again, so often we think people have these clear paths, even if we logically know most of us don't. But I just love being able to go, what did all of those streets or like intersections or what did they teach you and how did they support you in where you're at now and who you're at now?
Wow. There's so many chapters, as you know, but so I started right out of university as an environmental advisor, as you mentioned, for this multinational corporation. And what I learned from that job is that I am not someone who is designed, just in my structure and the way I get fulfillment from work, by hierarchy and being kind of pigeonholed in a job. I learned then pretty early, thank goodness, that I thrive in being an entrepreneur and being able to make choices that I think are going to, in some way benefit me and others. And I'm laughing because I'm thinking of then when I left that job, moved to New York to pursue acting, which was so rich and gave me a playground for really getting to know myself a lot more deeply than I ever would have had in the kind of work that I was doing in environmental science. And I got to explore and understand my emotional life and ultimately where my blocks were. And that kind of personal understanding is just something we can't really measure, right, in terms of what we learn and how it brought us to who we have become. But alongside that, as you know, I had all these side hustles, like doing massage at a poker club. And I learned so much about human beings in the poker club. And I also learned so much about how I could make the most money every time I went in for one of my shifts. And just so everybody knows.
Yeah. I want to know. I want you to make sure you answer that. I want to know. How did you know?
I will. How did I know what?
How to make more money at those shifts.
Oh, yeah. I will share that for anyone who is interested in becoming a masseuse at a poker club. So just so everyone can picture this, this is in the poker clubs were basically in like these huge office spaces with fluorescent lighting. A lot of the players were very competitive, and there would be 8 poker tables in one huge open room. And as they were playing poker, I would be the masseuse circulating in the room, and I had my pillow that I brought with me. It was basically a pillow you could sleep on. They would turn their chair around and put their chest against the pillow and continue playing while I gave them a massage. So this is the setup. And I learned that I could do special, like little touches, like I put lavender sheets inside the pillow so they could relax more. And I brought them home-baked cookies that then they would tip me even more for. And I brought them, I think at one point I brought them like a wet face cloth so they could kind of like clean their hands or something, or I'd put it on their neck. But I was always experimenting, and I was always well received with my new ideas.
Okay, I'm going to say a couple things there. One, I'm glad you clarified, because when you first told me, when we talked on the phone back when you were doing it, I literally in my mind imagined like a dark, dingy cellar, right?
Everyone does. Yeah.
Creepy, and then and I'm like, oh my God, this is dangerous. Like, what are you doing, Krista? So there's that. It's good to clarify that.
Yes.
But secondly, I think this is a part of your essence, and it's also a really important business tactic. I mean this. So one is you've always been that person who's always had like brought a little something or made something a little extra special. Like I think that's how you represent yourself, but it's also such a beautiful, loving gift to receive. So even when you picked Michael, Thomas, and I up in LA, right? Yeah. Not only did she drop us off at our Airbnb, but she had a little care package. You know, she had all these little bits of food because she just knew that, you know, we just done like, 3 long flights just to be able to give us some nourishment. Like that's Krista. When you would go and stay at her place legally in the brownstone in Brooklyn, there would be homemade banana bread. But I also think just business as women and entrepreneurs, just thinking like, what is that extra little thing? And it's just an experiment. The loving playfulness you said, I've experimented. I tried lavender pillows. I tried like keep experimenting because it's fun, right? It's fun.
Yes. And it's fun. And it's also, I think, one of the most fulfilling things about that example, among others, like baking the banana bread for my Airbnb guests, it forms connection that's so personalized, and it puts the heart into something that would otherwise just be transactional. And that's what I really appreciate and enjoy, is when there's fulfillment from the exchange of giving and receiving, whether it's in business or in friendship. And those personal touches for me are part of that. It's part of expressing a little something special about who I am and what I appreciate, and hoping that someone else will appreciate it too. And if not, they'll definitely get to know me through it.
That's true. That's so true. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So,
all these Rolodexes of like memories, even more memories, are starting to like wind through. And I feel like we absolutely have to have you back on because
I've only covered 2 of the careers, and there's probably, 6 more. So yes, there's something I learned from each and every one. And just like you said, none of it came from a leadership school or entrepreneur school. It was a lot of just ultimately getting to know myself and what I enjoyed, and what I enjoyed providing and giving to others, and what I enjoyed receiving from others.
One thing that's come up that I actually really think is important to ask, because I see this so often, is what I remember is one of the things that you were unwinding yourself from was like, you've always been a hard worker. Like there's no way that Krista, Raya, is not going to like work hard, stay true, go the extra mile, right? Yes. Like you were when did you know that wasn't serving you? And what has been one of the lessons that you learned to let go in a way that still allows you to maintain momentum and still create things and put things out into the world?
Yes. Oh boy. For me, this question is very much centered around self-worth. My identity was so wrapped up in believing that my worth was tethered to how hard I worked. And you know my background. I came from a family where my dad's a German immigrant and he was a workaholic. I became a workaholic, leaving no stone unturned in anything that I did. And there's an addictive quality in that where there's almost like an adrenaline rush for achieving or producing or doing everything so thoroughly and examining everything so perfectly. And for me, I realized it was around the same time in my late 30s where I realized I was so much in my masculine energy and I wasn't able to receive. That was one huge lesson. And the second thing was that I was just starting to understand that I'm enough as I am. And of course, for me and my own journey anyways, there are many layers to that. But that first kind of awareness that I got where I had been engaged with my self-worth by working so hard let me release it. And I also gave myself a lot of permission to create without needing to have a result. And that helped me tremendously. So when I was designing Permission, the lingerie line, I gave myself full reign to immerse who I was in that creative project and not necessarily have the dollars and cents attached to it on the outside. And in the end, I never ended up taking it to full manufacturing because I decided that's not how I want to spend my time and energy. But that process of honoring creativity and the value of creativity is what gives us richness in life. And so when I started to value my creativity more than I valued the act of working hard, that's where things shifted. And that's where I could really start to let go more of the deep patterning that I have and will always have. I mean, it's always somewhere there in me. So it's always a very conscious process of checking in and seeing, oh, wait a second, am I going overboard here? Is this really necessary? And just being very vigilant of that tendency.
Well, yeah, I want to share with you when we decided to do our boudoir shoot. Okay.
Oh, yes.
What was really interesting, tied to what you just said, is just to kind of give a little backstory. So Krista and I, not only were we able to finally get to see each other after quite a few years of not actually being together, but we really wanted to have experience together. And Krista mentioned that she was due, meaning she's done this a few times. She was due for another boudoir shoot. Like she was just feeling ready and called to do another boudoir shoot, right? And I think you sent me the link to see what the fabulous photographer Molly does. And in a moment, I think looking at her site, I realized she also does, you can do some like professional photos in terms of if you need headshots for your business or anything. And I did go through my mind, like what I actually needed, right? Again, I'm doing quote unquote needed, was more new, fresh photos for my website. Like that would be a really practical choice for me to make to put money towards. Or I could go and have this experience with my friend and do this without any practical application of it. Right? And, we just spent all this money going to Canada, 3 people, you sit there and it went through my mind and I'm like, what would be the wisest choice I could make for myself is to honor my own shout outs of being deliciously selfish and do something simply for myself just to do it, just to experience it. And of course it had, the whole purpose was to actually do it with you. Like that was the call. But underlying it, this did go through my mind. Like, well, maybe that would be better because it's logical and I could go, hey, putting money into that makes sense, right? But to do something like you said, allowing yourself to create with the lingerie line without an expectation, doing something for the mere pleasure. And if it came something, fine, but there's no tie-in and must-have and external, production of. And that was really important for me to make that choice.
What made you make that choice in the end? Like, how did you get to decide, oh, I'm going to do this for me?
Because that's been a big part of my evolution as well, especially with money, because money for me was very tied up with my health. And so I've done a lot of unwinding as I've gotten healthier. I've also had to deal with the financial, so not just the lack of health to me also equaled the lack of money, because I'd always go into debt in order to get my body healthy and aligned again. So I had a lot that I had to unwind. So sometimes just using money to just for sheer pleasure and not, like, I'll put it into my business like that. and I'm fairly abundant thinking that way. Or into my health. Like, something's going on, I won't even think twice. I'll go book in with an osteo. I'll go do whatever I need to do, right? But just for sheer pleasure is something that I'm leaning more and more into. So I knew it was quite a pivotal choice to make. But I remember being at the dog park and it was going through my head. Right? It was. I'm like,
as it does at the dog park. Yeah.
As it does, right?
Yes, it does.
Rocky's running around, and so it was. So it really was a logical point, knowing how good it would be for me. Because I knew the experience with you was going to be a blast. I knew that, but it wasn't like I was hankering to have something come out, like something tangible to hold on to. Like, whereas if I made the other choice, I would have. Yes. So that was also partly why doing that with you had an extra level of meaning for me.
I love that. Again, it comes back to like valuing the pleasure of just being creative, right? And allowing that to be gifted to ourselves. The pleasure of it is enough. And it fills so many other aspects of life, I find anyways, that are then immeasurable. It gives me fulfillment. Yeah. And
in fact, I do want to wrap up with this beautiful boudoir shoe because I really want to talk about it. On the heels of that, of LA, we flew to Canada, spent beautiful time with family. And then, as you know, Thomas got to go to the same summer camp as I went to.
Yes.
But when I dropped him off, I went into Canmore, where you did I think one of your more recent book signing stints. But I sat in Canmore and I just pulled out a piece of paper and had this little chai, and I'd finished crying because I was so excited for my son, but I'd never been without my 10-year-old for a week. But I sat there and I pulled out a piece of paper, and like a poem just literally came through me. And I used to write poetry. I used to write a fair amount. And it was so beautiful. And again, I'm just making a connection to just allowing yourself to do, to be, to receive pleasure, right? And how that can kind of transcend and build momentum of that type of releasing type of energy and presence that is completely contrary to the productivity pulse that we are taught, that, like you mentioned, we can be recognized for.
Yeah.
Right?
We become addicted to it because there's dopamine hits coming from external validation all the time when we're productive from society's, set of values. So it's so important to just have the spaciousness and intentional ability to receive pleasure and fill ourselves with it, so that we're available for other things and are naturally more productive without pushing to be. That's what I found.
Yes, yes, yes. I take more and more of that in. And so, Krista, let's just go back to the hallway with Molly, the photographer, and beautiful Jason, who had just done our makeup. You'd already
Yes.
taken me to a blowout place somewhere in LA to get our hair done. You treated me to that, and I fully
Yes.
received it.
Good
So
job.
I wanna share like my feelings of my own doing it, but also what it felt like to watch you and to do it with you. And
Oh, I love that.
I love to have you share the same. So
Okay.
so first of all, when Krista said we agreed that we're going to do this boudoir together, I'm literally packing a suitcase. So I'm like, well, what have I got? I'm like, oh, I've got this piece of lingerie. I got this piece. Perfect. There, it doesn't take up much room. I had no other thoughts except Krista the night before is like, oh, I've got to got to plan out the shoot.
Yeah.
And when I met her the next morning, she had like two big bags and props. Everything. It was so amazing. But again, she was doing a much longer shoot than me. And I was like, oh, wow, like so much thoughtfulness went into this for Krista. Like, that's amazing. And we debated like who would go first. Not debated, but the same way we debated who would drive the car that ended up running into the long horned sheep back in Canada. But that's another story for another time. But I remember thinking it'd be great if you went first because you've done this many times, and I've posed naked for sketch artists, but it's a very stagnant experience. I've never done this one before. And Krista cranked up the tunes, man. And it was like a total celebration of what it is to be a woman. Like you just rocked it out. Like, in fact, you were so in touch with yourself in some moments that I almost felt like I needed to look away because it was so intimate. I know, I mean it. There were times I'm like, okay, I might just let her have that moment. But it was especially to bring movement to it. Like, and again, what a beautiful way to allow our bodies to move and express, right? And to know that there's a camera there, but I know for me when I was doing it, it really, at first it was like, oh, I knew she was there and I recognized that. But once you get into it, I just remember loving just the freedom and the choice to move in that moment, right, to the music with my body and in the space around me, what it called for. So, oh yeah, when I saw you, I was like, you woman are on fire, full celebration. And I just remember going like, whoop, whoop, whoop.
Oh, it's so fun to hear your cheers in the background. I think that's also part of it, like being celebrated by and with each other is it just makes the experience of celebrating ourselves so much more rich and fun and alive. So yes, I also loved that part. Did you have more you wanted to say about it before I share mine?
Well, one thing I did want to, I wanted to share was, oh, no. I'm going to save that. Ooh, I hit the mic. I'm going to save that. You tell me, what was your experience?
Well, as you've mentioned, I've done boudoir photo shoots before for myself, and the reason why I do them is because it's really a celebration of communing with my sensual and pleasurable expression that allows me to connect with my inner beauty and to break out of any ideas, judgments, societal conditionings around what beauty is. And so it is, to your point, for me, it's a very intimate experience because I am with myself and not even aware or wanting to be aware of how I'm being seen by the outside world. It's really just for me. And then the beauty of doing a boudoir photo shoot is that I get a reflection back to myself of what I feel in the inside while I'm communing with that sensual expression. So for me, it's such a gift to see a photographer like Molly, who is incredibly talented and dexterous with capturing the milliseconds of moments that happen during this process, that I get to see myself back, almost like looking in the mirror. I'm like, oh, that's what it looks like when I'm expressing what I feel. You know, I can remember what I was connected to most of the time. And it's, for me, just it's one of the aspects of this celebration of body and love and of self-love. So my experience of it with you was so fun, because you and I mean, our early 20s are coming to mind now, when we both so deeply wanted to be in a relationship and neither of us were. And we so badly longed, or not badly, we longed and thought often about how could it come to be that we would be sharing our bodies with someone who would allow us to know our pleasure. I mean, that's what it was for me. I couldn't even conceive of what that would be like. I didn't lose my virginity until I was 21. So there was a pretty big period of not knowing what pleasure was in my body, because I didn't know how to explore it. And so having had that era of life with you, and knowing that you knew me back then, being able to do this boudoir photo shoot with you specifically was so special, because I felt so free. Yeah. And I feel like we got to celebrate the women who we have each become together in that freedom. And that just means the world to me. It's a celebration of freedom. And I, had my photo shoot first, and I just reveled in hearing you and Molly cheer me on, and it just felt so fun, so free. And then I got to witness you in your bright red, beautiful lingerie, and just how you also have all these notes of expression with your body, from the playful to the innocent to the soft to the sassy to the, like, your range of expression in your body was just so beautiful to watch. And I got to witness your freedom too. And that was such a gift, knowing so much of your journey too, and the journey you've been through with your body, which is also not lost on me. So it was just hugely gratifying on so many levels, and so special specifically to be able to do it with you.
Oh, Mama, honestly, it was the same way. Like, hearing you go, this is what you would be going. You'd be like, yeah, Mama, yeah, Mama. That's what you would be saying. I remember that. We've got a little back video of it. Like, oh yeah, oh yeah. Yes. Because I remember going, like, I wasn't worried about being witnessed. That didn't go through my head, but I was wondering, I was curious about what it would be like to be witnessed beyond the photographer, right? I definitely was that.
Yeah.
For sure. And, it was interesting, because for myself, I would say about 85% of that shoot, I was very in my body and with myself, but 15% I wasn't. And I'm just pulling out some random percentage, but meaning the first part was going, like, crawling across the couch. One was so uncomfortable and awkward, and I was falling, and so I was like, I was just laughing, because I'm like, this is just not working. But then, actually, you don't know this. I do have to say this, because this is part of my own journey. I've come so far, which is amazing. But to any other woman who is still on this journey of coming into a loving relationship with your body. When you finished, I went into the bedroom and I was just starting to not change, I was starting to undress. And just for a moment, it was really interesting. I had this moment of having seen you, because we're very different body shapes, right? We're the same height, but incredibly different body shapes. And just for a moment, I remember going, oh, okay. And not almost. For a moment, I compared my body to yours in a way which was oh man, mine's very different. Okay, here we go. I'd actually recognized that. And meaning in that moment, what my brain was saying was my body isn't this ideal, just not being logical, but it went through me. And but that's an old pattern of thinking for me. That's not the truth. It's not my truth. It's an old pattern of thinking that just suddenly just reared up in that second. And then I felt it, I heard it. And then I went, oh no. I remember saying it out loud in the bedroom, oh, no, let's go. I did. I said it out loud because I'm no. That little voice is not going to stop me or hold me back from having this beautiful experience with my friend and for myself. So I actually did that before I walked out.
Oh, I love that.
But then at the very end, and I think you'll know this part, the very, very end, I had this other little black outfit on and this little green, this beautiful green little mini dressing thing. What's it negligee, satin?
Yeah, the robe.
The robe, little satin robe, right? And I was teasing it and I was playing with it. And then right at the end, just to be goofy, right? I had my legs spread in a V and I actually dropped my head down between my legs to get a photo of Molly could take a picture of my head hanging down between my legs. And then I just started teasing, bringing the robe down around my butt. Yeah. And then I was about to drop it. And then I just had this moment where I was out of my body into my head because same thing when I posed naked for sketch artists, turning around and having my butt fully naked right there was it was what I knew I had to do back then. I knew it, but it was this old kind of thing came up and all of a sudden I just stopped it around my butt and I didn't drop it. And I remember afterwards you went, oh, I thought you were going to drop it.
I don't remember that moment.
You did. And I was just and I just was yeah. But I knew. So I just share that because it was definitely... It's definitely just the growth, and that's all I want to really to focus on myself was how far I've come.
Oh, yes.
Amen. But also just like you coming into my body later and not just knowing how it could even be to be with a partner to be pleasured, just to feel safe in my body to want to share it. That was a big part of our journeys as well. And so, oh my gosh, woman. Just to see you, to be with you in all of that, what an absolute gift for my heart.
Oh, likewise. Me too. Thank you so much for joining me in that. It was so special. And I also want to add to what you've just articulated so beautifully around that moment of awareness of judgment or comparison. And that really is the power, right, of choosing otherwise. And I feel we have both done that in our lives in very different circumstances, different ways, but it distills down to that same awareness and choice in the moment of where we either can buckle to that mental, let's just say judgment, or choose the other way. And it's a practice. It's really a practice. And to have the patience and grace with ourselves, and as you said, to recognize it as the beauty of growth, to really recognize it for the growth that it is and to celebrate the freedom in it is there's just nothing like it in my mind. There's nothing that parallels that sense of freedom when we choose that for ourselves.
Yeah. It's a great reminder for ourselves and also to everybody else, right? Because sometimes we think we have to get there, finally be there,
or feel actually shamed for not being there. Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly right. So as we come to the close of this podcast, I know I realize that I've referred to you as Krista, as Raya, as Krista Raya. In terms of choice and choosing to be seen and known these days as Raya, I'd love for you to share what that name means to you and the identity that you claim through that name.
Wow. I just want to revel in this moment and see if I can do it justice in terms of expressing what's really true for me and identity around my name. So what's really meaningful for me in the name Raya is that it came through a meditation when I was meditating with friends. And we had all been asking what our soul names are. Almost, for me, it was, I was really curious. Oh, is that a thing? Do people have soul names? And I wasn't ardently searching for myself in any way. It just seemed like a fun exploration. And when I felt the vibration of this name Raya, I just broke out into tears of joy. I felt so moved by a sensation of awe and wonder, of connecting with a part of myself that has always been there. And yet it seems a more expanded version of me. And that was activated in me through the sound of this name Raya. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't, know why it would be spelled the way it is. And none of that. It just was what my soul connected with in that name. And I never wanted to change my name. I never necessarily wanted to, even go by another name. But the more that I sat with that name, it started to provide a benchmark and an anchor for me to remember who I really am and who I am becoming in my fullest expression. And it is so joyful and it is so free. And whenever I hear Raya, it automatically connects me with that knowing that I have inside of me. And it activates that same joy and rightness or a sense of alignment. And so, at first it was just a few friends calling me Raya. And then I was ordering my coffee at Starbucks as Raya. And it felt so good. Like, I can't tell you how good it felt for it to see Raya written on that coffee cup. And I was like, this is what life is for. It's to enjoy who we are. It's to enjoy that connection with ourselves, to experience ourselves. And if that comes through a name, so be it. I'm taking it on. And it just so happened that when I had that experience with the name, I was going through massive changes. It was the period of COVID where it was still very difficult to operate my retreat house, which I had in Northern California and was accommodating groups, so I could no longer do that. I ended up selling the business. I was also going through a big relationship change. It was the end of a really important major relationship in my life, romantic partnership. And this name also was my anchor in the deepest part of me of who I am. And so moving from there forward, I just like at Starbucks started to introduce myself as Raya, and I had a great time.
Without putting on a wig and pretending you're from Sweden. Remember?
Right.
We used to do those.
This is so interesting because you know how like we play dress up like you're describing, or play with archetypes. This was so different because it was like an inside out thing. And I think we can know ourselves through both avenues, right? By trying things on and and getting to know from the outside in. But this was so deeply from the inside out that, especially as I was going through so much change, it was a guide for me in really owning who I am becoming. And what's really interesting to me is that when I was writing this book, I always thought I would, my author name would be Raya. And then as it got time to publishing the book, it somehow didn't feel right to publish as Raya. And it surprised me because I thought, but wait a second, this is who I'm becoming. So I went through quite a reckoning with my identity at that time, because here I am emerging as, an author, a published author for the first time in my life after a very many diverse careers. And I felt a strong intuition to publish under Krista Kujat. And what I came to understand about that intuitive hit is that Krista Kujat is who I've been all of these years, who got me to the point of becoming Raya and having fun as Raya. And so I really want to honor that without Krista Kujat, there would be no Raya. And my parents are the ones who gave me this name, Krista Kujat, and without them, there would be no Krista. So it was really an interesting decision to make in terms of identity. And I really learned through that experience that it's the meaning that we hold for ourselves around these types of decisions that are most significant. It's not actually what we end up doing materially, but it's how we approach and hold meaning for our decisions that allow us to grow in some way. So that's what it meant for me.
Oh, it's so glorious to hear that. And I have to agree, because I never, ever was going to change my surname. I didn't know if I'd get married. I knew I desired partnership. I was open to it. It didn't really be like, I have to get married, I have to change my name. But it was it took me a whole year after even getting married to change my name. And it was actually more of a whole new life. Like, I really felt a pivotal shift in my identity. And it wasn't just becoming a wife. And it wasn't just with the desire and hope that I may become a mother. It was actually coming to Australia was a new portal opened for me here. It was really, and I felt it. And so choosing a different surname that was the meaning that I gave it. And, contrary, I used to think my name was a little bit like Cindy. The only Cindys I ever knew were like American cheerleaders in movies or little white fluffy yappy dogs. I'd met a couple called Cindy.
What about Cindy from the Brady Bunch? She was my favorite. I loved Cindy.
Of course she was.
I wanted her to be my friend too.
Well, when I actually looked up the meaning of Cindy and the root of it, the same thing, the meaning that it had just to me anchors me, because it's the goddess of the moon and bringer of light.
Oh, I had no idea.
So when I remember that, I'm like, I remember that, Cindy. That is who you are, and it's also what you bring and share and offer the world.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Wow. It's so you. The luminosity that you bring to the world. Wow. I love that. I remember when you were making the decision as to whether or not to change your last name when you got married. And I remember having discussions about this with you, and that it wasn't about the roles, like mother, wife, and that it was really so much more personal to you than that. But I'm glad you reminded me of this shift that you had felt so deeply when you moved to Australia, and that was part of the meaning that it held for you in that new chapter.
Yeah.
It can be so fortifying, a name, the choice of a name. For
yes. Yes, all of our choices. So, ladies, let's make sure all of our choices are pleasurable, serve us, right? Because when we serve ourselves, we are so deeply connected to our souls, and that's how we actually shift and support others in doing that as well. Okay, final question. And when it comes to claiming or reclaiming our sass and leading from our soul, is there any final insight or message or intuitive hit you have right now just to share with me, with anyone listening?
Yes, I do. I was connecting with it even before you asked. It's whenever there is an intersection of making a choice that's significant, is to check in. Is it going to bring me joy and or freedom? Period. No ifs or ands and buts about it, because if it's not joy and freedom, what is it? Is that really who you are? I found most of the time it's not who I am. It's something else, like duty or guilt or shame or yada, yada, yada. Fear, maybe. All of those close cousins. So my final closing words are: choose the joy, choose the freedom, and enjoy the pleasure of doing so.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to add one thing to it.
Yeah, please.
And choose the beautiful people you surround yourself with.
Yes.
Along the way.
100%. Yes.
So.
Yes. Oh.
Oh, baby. Oh, baby.
Oh, baby.
I love you, like,
I love
just
you
so
so
deeply. I'm reaching through the screen, touching you. All right. I just enjoy your beautiful, delicious, wise lights back there. Have
Yes.
a beautiful sunset. Now night in LA.
Yes.
I've just reveled in this conversation, and I can't wait to touch base soon. I will tell everybody in the show notes, like, where to get your stunning book, where to find you, where to see you, where to engage with you. Lots of love.
Oh, thank you. So much love back to you. Mwah.
Bye, gorgeous. What a gift it was to share this conversation with Raya. From childhood memories to the power of reclaiming sass, from poetry to the wisdom of womanhood. This is why I love bringing my global friends to you. These stories remind us that our voice matters, our soul is our compass, and our friendships are part of our lifeblood. If Raya's words touched you today, be sure to follow her. Get your hands on her beautiful poetry book and let her voice inspire your own. And as always, thank you for listening to Sass and Soul. Until next time, stay sassy and always source your truth from your soul. See you next time.